Thanks for the introduction. A quick disclaimer is that I can't guarantee that you'll understand more after the talk about Bitcoin than before. But I'll try my best. So I got involved with Bitcoin about 2 years ago, and it was just me being a nerd, me being curious. I had this background in mathematics, and I was doing programming at the time, and I was also doing some finance stuff, and Bitcoin is kind of the intersection of all these things in this great, fascinating way. And fast forward to today, Bitcoin has completely taken over my life. I have been really obsessed with it, thinking about it every single day, and I have decided to build a business on top of it. Specifically, I'm building a consumer payments app. I'm trying to make it really easy for people to use Bitcoin. And when I talk about my investors, and when I talk to my investors and to my potential customers, I tell them, what can they use Bitcoin for today? Because that's what they're interested in. And I tell them, okay, you can buy stuff on Amazon for a 5% discount. Just by choosing to use Bitcoin as opposed to a credit card, you get this automatic 5% discount. Or you could send money abroad and bypass Western Union or MoneyGram or the banks, and you'll get a far better price. Or you could use Bitcoin because you value your privacy, or you want to do more secure payments. But to be completely honest with you, all these value propositions that exist today are dwarfed by the much bigger picture. And it is the much bigger picture that makes me wake up every single day so excited to work on Bitcoin. So I guess the bigger picture is that Bitcoin is a tool to question or to build an alternative to some of the fundamental pillars of the internet. And the three specific pillars that I'm going to be talking about today are trust, and money, and law. But I guess that before I explain all of this, I need to tell you something about what Bitcoin is. And this whole talk is aimed at the budding entrepreneur. I want to try and, by giving the big picture, to try and inspire the new generation who have this in them, that want to change the world, to maybe consider Bitcoin. So the way I explain it to the budding entrepreneurs, without getting into the details, is to say that Bitcoin is nothing more but a computer with a notion of time. Now that might be very strange, and I need to explain myself. As Dan said, time has these three components: past, present, and future. And the key property of the past is that it's immutable, it's fixed, you can't change it. The key property of the present is that it's open to all, it's a shared experience, it's ubiquitous. And the key property of the future is that it is bound to happen, you can't stop it. And the future happens according to very strict rules like the laws of physics. And it's exactly the same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is this virtual computer, this kind of cloud computer, which has these three properties. So it has a concept of past in the sense that when it does computations, you can't reverse them. They're done forever. It has a concept of presence in the sense that it is open to all, and the state of the computer, the information that it stores, is visible to all, and everyone is welcome to participate. It also has a future in the sense that it cannot be stopped. It is guaranteed to run. And what provides all the foundations for these properties is something very new, which involves mathematics and game theory, which I won't go into details, but I guess one key thing to take out of this is that Bitcoin at the very core is nothing more, nothing less than a breakthrough in computer science. For 30 years, it was an open problem as to whether or not we could build such a computer. And the whole community of computer scientists and entrepreneurs have been very surprised that the answer has been yes, we can do this. And the consequences are huge. So one of the first pillars of doing business online is the concept of trust. When you have people on the internet who want to do business with each other, they need to choose a platform that they both feel confident will act in their best interest. And because on the internet there's this disconnect, this physical disconnect, we have mostly our solution in the search for predictability is to use trusted intermediates. So, for example, in the case of Kickstarter, Kickstarter itself, the company, is an intermediate between something which is fundamentally peer-to-peer. And one of the things they guarantee is that, for example, a project owner for which money has been pledged, but not enough money has been raised to be above the threshold, well, he can't just run away with the money and stuff like that. And it turns out that our computer, Bitcoin, is this perfect platform to act as an alternative to the trusted intermediate in the search for a trusted platform, because it has these properties which are kind of disconnected from men in a way. It makes it completely unbiased, completely neutral. And so in the case of Kickstarter, what you can do is you can write a little program which says, please receive money until the threshold has been reached, at which point send the money to the project owner. And just by writing a few lines of code, you can basically remove Kickstarter. And you may ask, why is it valuable to remove Kickstarter? And I guess it comes down to trying to understand what the cost of trust is, and the cost of going through these intermediates. Well, one obvious cost is kind of the upfront cost of Kickstarter. So I believe it's somewhat around 8%. But actually, there's two other costs which are kind of more interesting. One other cost is that trust is a liability, fundamentally. Trust is something that is not perfect. Trust is, because it can be violated, it is a liability, and we human beings seek predictability. And one of the things that Bitcoin can offer is kind of what people call a trustless platform, where we completely remove trust to the extent that we have perfect predictability. So there's no longer a liability that things can go wrong. You can mathematically prove that things will go according to how you design them. And another cost of trust by going through these trusted intermediates is an opportunity cost. So it turns out, for example, in the case of Kickstarter, Kickstarter only operates in very select jurisdictions, in mostly rich country jurisdictions, and it will only allow a select curated set of projects, and it will only allow people with a certain infrastructure to participate. but with Bitcoin, if you use Bitcoin as a platform, it's fundamentally open. There isn't this gatekeeper aspect, and so you might have less opportunity cost. Okay, so one way I think of this global movement towards true peer-to-peer business without intermediates is actually to take it in a historical context. So the Industrial Revolution, in a way, brought a decentralized consumer base, which was very large due to mass production. And then we had the Internet Revolution, which was nothing more than an improvement in the way humans communicate, and that allowed for a two-way decentralized market where the producer base itself is decentralized. Think of Uber, Airbnb, eBay, Kickstarter. And the Bitcoin revolution is also simply an improvement to how humans can communicate. And it allows for three-way decentralized systems where the service itself, the service provider, is itself decentralized. So that's one of the pillars that is being, in a way, questioned by Bitcoin. The second pillar is the concept of money. So money is this thing which we don't necessarily question that much, but the way I understand it is it's simply a ledger. It just keeps track within society of who owns how much purchasing power. In a way, it is simply a database. The money itself has no intrinsic value other than in keeping track of who owns what and to fluidify business. And the kind of money that we have nowadays is created and governed by the government and the banks. And these institutions enjoy certain legal privileges, as it were. Some of them are the ability to declare a certain currency legal tender. They also have tax laws which require people to pay taxes in a certain currency. They also have search and seizure laws, which allows them to spy, well, to look at people's activity and to freeze funds. And they also have the power to control the money supply, that is to print money or remove money from the system. And if you go back to the idea of money as simply a ledger, then you can ask, can you use Bitcoin to create a completely new kind of money where you don't have these institutions which have these legal privileges. Instead, you have a completely neutral money. And you might ask, okay, what is the advantage of doing that? One of the advantages, of course, is that goes back to the first notion of trust. That if you use a neutral platform and you interact with it directly without an intermediate, then you don't have all the cost of trust. But another issue is related to the fact that governments, the power of governments is limited to their jurisdiction. And so this creates money which is fundamentally local and doesn't really play very well with the global aspect of the internet. And so what Bitcoin, so what I'm saying here is that on Bitcoin you can create whatever currencies you want. You can create tomorrow, you can create your own currency on Bitcoin. But there is this one default currency which came out of the package, as it were, with Bitcoin, and it plays a special part for Bitcoin the computer because it's what secures it. And this currency is a totally new way of doing money, which is in a way hyper-efficient and hyper-global. It's hyper-efficient in the sense that you interact with it natively. You effectively have a bearer instrument, and when you make transfers, you make transfers peer-to-peer. Now, one very exciting thing for entrepreneurs in the fintech space is that once you have this foundational layer of money, which is hyper-efficient, which you can send at the other end of the world basically for free, instantly, without any counterparty risk, then you can start thinking about rebuilding all of finance. And in a way, finance is just trusted accounting, or a large portion of finance is trusted accounting. And Bitcoin is perfect accounting. There can be no mistakes. And it's a bit of an academic exercise. It's just a matter of entrepreneurs doing it, building it, to take this fundamental layer, which has magically has value, from the market, the Bitcoin tokens, the bits, and use this fundamental layer to build exchanges, derivatives, options, futures, marketplaces, all the layers on top. The final kind of pillar of business on the internet that Bitcoin questions is that of law. So in a way, law is only meaningful if it can be enforced. And the way governments have had meaningful law in the physical world is because they had the capacity to enforce it physically. And from the beginnings of the internet to today, they have also been able to enforce the laws in the digital world, on the internet. And the reason is because most of the services we have nowadays are real companies. They're legal entities with legally accountable people running it. And so, in a way, there's this, they're deeply rooted still in the physical world. And what Bitcoin allows, this computer with a very strong notion of time, it allows you to, in a sense, create your own jurisdictions, to create your own rules, your own laws. And then it becomes very interesting to ponder if governments have any enforcing power on these new systems. If there's no concept of identity or of geography or of a company, that the whole platform is essentially run by computers. There's no human operators. Who are you going to put in prison? Who are you going to punish if the laws you have created, the rules are incompatible with government laws? And so I think that in this last respect, Bitcoin is extremely interesting because it is an experiment in freedom. It's an experiment in the freedom to build your own jurisdictions in the digital world and to choose which jurisdictions you want to live in. So yeah, that's basically it. Bitcoin is this fantastic new discovery. It's a breakthrough in computer science. It's a computer with a strong notion of time, and that has amazing consequences for fundamental pillars of business that we usually never question. I had never questioned the concept of trusted intermediates, money and law. I just took them for granted. But now that we have a tool where we actually can do things differently, then you start seeing the world in a brand new way. And I hope that I have given you a bit of a glimpse into the vastness of opportunities that there are for entrepreneurs like myself. And I really hope that if you have it in you, that you want to change the world, that you consider Bitcoin for your next venture. Thank you.